Okay, so what did we talk about last time? We went over where you guys started. The idea and the progression to get to Kickstarter and getting that sweet paycheck.
That's right.
That's true. We talked a little bit about getting the sweet paycheck.
Yes, and depositing the sweet paycheck.
And how it felt. Yeah. So where do you go from there? So you have the money. Now what?
That's what no one knew at Kickstarter back then. Time to deliver.
That's true. We talked about the Kickstarter last time.
Yeah. So we finished Kickstarter. Next step was make this. Time to make the product.
That's true. So after we deposited the sweet paycheck, and then it was time to build, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
then we went to hit print, and we were like, oh,
how do you make something?
What do we do now? So we went to some firms, right?
Well, yeah. So I think first we asked around in the area, like people who have built stuff before, and I think
there were people around.
Yeah, I think that everybody built their consumer goods in China.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, we don't make things here. We make them in China. So, and then it became really obvious, like everything that we bought was in China.
Yeah.
So we engaged with some firms that did like manufacturing overseas. Mm-hmm. And we basically said, okay, here's the product. This is actually, you know what? Before we did that, we actually designed it.
Yeah, the design firms, right? I mean, it was still firms.
Yeah.
But I was trying to remember because there's one we still work with now. We could give a shout out, Detect. Let's go Detect. But I'm trying to think, how do we even find them? Was it just pure Google searches for design firms?
Yeah, I think we did. I think we Google searched, and they were out of Asia, and so
how to make a phone soap.
And the nice thing is, you go to websites and it feels really good.
Yeah.
Whether they're overselling or not, you go online and it's like, oh, we design it, and we design it to be manufacturing ready. It's like, oh, that's what we need.
Nice.
Well, yeah. So like a lot of the firms that we went to that were like based in the U.S. were like to just design it would be more than
that check
more
was
money than we had.
That check was about 60, and I bet the design is about 60 alone. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. It was. We're like, okay, we can't do that, and so we stumbled across Detect. I forget exactly how, but they were more in our budget. I think it was. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was 10, 15, maybe max 20.
Max, and I really do think you're right. I think it's kind of in that 10 range to really
because we still were like, oh, we got to manufacture this still, so it needs to be.
And who knew what tooling was back then, right?
Yeah.
Which we'll get into, but yeah. So
we just said it, but nobody knows what tooling is.
We'll tell you soon. So yeah, so Detect, great fit. Still a great relationship with Daniel, the owner over there, and
yep.
Yeah.
So we engaged with them to design it, and so basically
and design it, right? So we had something designed,
right?
And at that point, I think we still felt like it would look the same, just make it manufacturing ready.
Yeah.
But
so we kind of had some ideas of like how we wanted it to function, like in general, right? If you look at, maybe we got you want to hand us one of the this is basically what they designed back in the day.
Yeah,
this is an
close.
Updated version, but
do we have a Kickstarter version?
We have a, I think so.
We did.
We do, but it doesn't look like the one that I think is the original one, but
okay. So we can go grab
but we do
it.
have one that says Kickstarter on it.
So the one on Kickstarter was actually it would like slide, the middle would slide out. So it's kind of like an Oreo. You have the top part and the bottom part, and the middle would slide out.
Like that, right?
Yep.
And you drop your phone in there.
Yep, and you drop your phone in there and slide it back in. And so that was the first thing that we worked on with them, which is like okay, basically we have this, concavity where we're going to put a phone. And so it's like, how do you open up the product to put the phone inside? And so in Kickstarter, we had it sliding out, like you just said.
Yeah.
But then the question was like, okay, what's the easiest way to do that? Do you have it open up like a clamshell? Do you have the top slide back?
Yeah, we had a lot of options. And I think that's what they told us, right? Which is you have something designed. And I don't know if we knew immediately or they knew immediately that it wasn't really manufacturable, or more just like, hey, our process is we're going to give you a few different ideas beyond just what you had there. But either way, it turned into more than just the one design we had there.
Yeah. So it was basically 3 different ways to open a box, right?
Yes.
And so we decided that the clamshell was kind of the most universal thing. You've got your laptop and you've got just people are used to this versus sliding. It takes up the least amount of room, mechanically the simplest. And so we decided to go with that. And so once we knew it was going to open on a hinge like this, then we had to decide what is the aesthetic going to be. And so that was the second thing that we worked on with them. And it kind of ended up a little bit like a fat MacBook.
Yeah.
Or like a soap.
And it's a fun process. They give you mood boards, you might call them, different products that they think look similar or have a similar idea. And so you start with different textures, different feels, different looks. And, you can kind of take those design, what's the word I'm looking for? I forgot the word right on the podcast, but
Perfect.
Basically design ideas, threads. Like at that time, there are certain things that are in and certain things that aren't. So it was a lot of fun to explore, what companies were doing at the time and how we could, look like them, but then maybe take a step even further in the future.
And how many of the first version did you make? Like the ones that
design language is what I was looking for.
Go out this way. Oh,
design language.
Okay, edit that in.
Yeah, edit that in.
But the one that slides out, how many of those were made?
We just made one.
Just the one?
Just the one?
Just the one for Kickstarter, yeah.
Which for like Kickstarter purposes was probably easier, right? Because it was CNC, right? I mean, different than actually producing plastic, which is funny. It was almost on the smaller scale. It was the easier one to produce. Larger scale, harder one to produce.
So then the one that like you actually distributed after that was the clamshell, but more like the PhoneSoap 2. Because I think that's the one that we have is like PhoneSoap 2
Yeah,
version.
they all basically, they look like this. What we changed is like how the cable was routed through it. So that was the other thing is once the device is closed, in the original, we like routed the cable through the box and into the phone to charge your phone.
Oh, okay.
Now we just have a little groove right there and block the light with this flap.
And that was one of the scariest things. And looking back now, it shouldn't have been. So I don't know if we're there yet or not, but like at the end of that design process, there was a moment where it's like, okay, we have to let them know that we are giving them something that looks different. And that felt heavy. Didn't it feel really heavy? Remember that?
Yeah.
Like people are going to be mad. And maybe we should have been a little more
it's not going to
thoughtful.
slide out anymore. It's going to be a clamshell.
But at the end of the day, it was like it delivered exactly what we said. Better than we said, right? Yeah. It did the killing, it did the charging, and it frankly had a better look. So, but I remember that was like a hard.
People were like, it looks completely different, and it did look completely different. It opened completely different, but
were people mad?
Yeah, they were mad about it.
Nice. There's always got to be someone.
There's got to be someone.
Yeah.
You can. What does Steve Jobs always say? You can please some of the people some of the time.
Yeah.
That's about all you can do.
But you can't please all the people all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So so once we kind of had the design, we had a great design. We thought, which is basically what you see here is, and we've had it for a lot of years, and it's kind of actually
it is
pretty classic. It's aged well.
We knew that it had to be universal, even for Kickstarter, right? We wouldn't have the money to make. We didn't want it to be like a phone case, right?
Yeah.
We have a different version for every phone and every year. So, there's always been a universal look because it was very universal in usage also.
Yeah. So we kind of, after the design was done, we kind of knew, okay, these are the pieces. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of plastic. You've got the electronics, and then you have the UV bulbs and the quartz. So we kind of had our bill of materials. all laid out. And that's when we went shopping for manufacturers overseas. And there's lots of contract manufacturers out there, and we got some referrals to several that other companies that manufactured in the area used over there. And that's where it got kind of depressing.
Yes. That's where the dollar bills started to stack up.
Yeah, because we sent out a design that we thought was like pretty economical to produce, and the price tag came back really high. So like, I think on Kickstarter we said, okay, we're gonna a pledge of like $40.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Basically, we're pricing this at $40, right?
Yeah.
And like the price tag came back to make it like at 30, 35.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh shoot, we
Little
can't.
tight.
And that's before shipping it to the U.S. and before shipping it to the customer, right?
Yeah, so we're like, it's too tight. We can't make it, and so.
And that's also another scary moment. That's the next scary moment. Lots of scary moments in starting a business.
Yeah.
But yeah, like where do you go from here? It's kind of heavy.
Yep.
Because you have people's money.
Yep.
And you have your word, right?
Yeah.
You want to deliver. You have to deliver.
Yeah, and so we were like, shoot, did we design it in a way that was too expensive? But, no, we designed it, kind of in the most economical way possible. But what happened was so we didn't know anything about manufacturing, obviously. We just had a bunch of quotes back. And so we're like, shoot, how can we make this cheaper? And so that was kind of what we obsessed over. And so what we did actually was we took the bill of materials and we found, instead of using a contract manufacturer that would have their staff go and source all of the different pieces, we found the manufacturer of each of those pieces and like priced out each specific piece. Like, what does it cost to just do the plastic? What does it cost to just buy the bulb straight from the manufacturer? What does it cost to for the PCB, for the power adapter? Like each piece of it, we broke down and kind of added them all up to see if we could get how close we got to the quotes we got from the contract manufacturers.
Yeah, because there's a whole unknown of like, are
they charging us too much?
How close are they actually? Like, is it really that much, or are they making half that? Yeah, there's so many unknowns going into working overseas for the first time, or manufacturing for the first time.
Taking advantage of Kickstarter people.
Sure.
Yep.
So
Yeah, people that were obviously green and didn't know what they were doing. And so, we were really detailed actually in that part, not just the plastics, but like, how much does it cost to paint the plastic using this material and different things? Because we knew all the materials that would make the product like work, right? Like this couldn't be, some stuff you can't replace it, right? Like the quartz can't be replaced with glass because it would block the UV light that kills the germs. So there were some non-negotiables, that was one of them. Obviously the lamps needed to be actual UVC and not any other wavelength, the right wavelength. So there's some things we couldn't change. But what we did in breaking it down piece by piece and finding out like what each piece cost, there were like some obvious quotes that we got back that were like super, super gougy, We're like, how is it this expensive when all the pieces are just this much, right?
Yeah.
And so we narrowed it down to 2 or 3 manufacturers that were like actually not like in the ballpark of what we estimated they should be based on the component prices of all the pieces. And so we decided to start working with them more closely to see like how could we reduce the cost, right? And so what it actually came down to at the time was the most expensive piece of the product was the quartz plate. And just because quartz is usually like produced in tubes and things, but we wanted this large quartz plate that, you really just couldn't buy off the shelf. And so that was my endeavor of going to China and trying to visit all of the manufacturers of quartz, period. And so that was fun.
Yeah.
How long was that quest?
It was several months actually. Wow. So we used for pricing and sourcing, ourselves. We went to Alibaba and found manufacturers of the specific pieces.
Got it.
Instead of just contract manufacturers of products, So I was able to. So I got a list of manufacturers that. Every manufacturer in China that I could find that produced quartz, and then when we visited them and going through and talking about their process and how to get the price of this specific component down, just because there's in a lot of quartz applications, it's like the purity is really important, for other purposes like chemical interactions and things like that. But for us, we just cared about like the optical quality. Of it for the UV light. And so what we came down to is like to produce a plate like this in mass quantity with a level of like quality that was, acceptable. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we found out is we could get the price down a lot if we didn't reject like ones that didn't look perfect, Mm-hmm. And so some of them had like waves in them and it didn't look bad. Now we haven't seen that for a while. But like when we very first started, the very first PhoneSoap's, the quartz plate was all like a little bit wavy and stuff. It functioned.
Still works.
It worked exactly how we needed it to. It just didn't look like as we fine tuned it now, and we obviously built a lot more of them than we did the first time. But so that was the turning point where we were actually like boots on the ground. Talking to the people that actually made this piece, and we're like, okay, why does it cost this much? Can the percentage of silica be a little bit different and still get the optical properties that we need? How polished do the corners need to be if they're like touching the plastic and things like that? So we basically got the price down. And we connected that manufacturer of the quartz plate with the contract manufacturer that was ordering and doing all the plastics and the assembly and all those things. And when we plugged that piece into their bill of materials, then it got us into, I think it was still really expensive.
Yeah, it's still double.
But like now. The $20 range,
Yeah, that's right. And so, but you still have to move forward, right? That's still more expensive than you thought, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's worth noting, because I don't know if we'll talk about it later, just over time, we were able to bring that down further and further. And, I think Wes mentioned part of that is quantity. We make a whole lot more. But also just, putting more than one shark in the tank, right? Finding out who else can manufacture and using more than one partner. And obviously you want to trust a relationship, but at least for us early on, that was important over the next few years. That's kind of fast forwarding, but just looking at price and manufacturing in general, getting quantities and relationships to a point where we could push that further down. Because even at that price, it still wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was like, we were people were worried and advising us like, don't do it in China because they'll just steal it, and they'll produce it and then sell it themselves and things like that. So we wanted to find a partner that had worked with somebody else that we knew that, kind of like they trust this person, so we can trust this person. Yeah. And so that's, that was part of the evaluation as well. But also we started going down the road of like getting a patent attorney and doing the patent so that we could protect it as best we could. But really what it came down to is, and people still ask us these questions because we help some other people manufacture things from time to time and their products. And that's a question that people have, like, are you worried about people in China like ripping it off, And there's always that worry, but at the end of the day, once you go to market with a product, like anyone can buy this and many Chinese companies have. Yeah. And have done their own version of this since then. And it's funny how many of them don't work.
Yep. No one's copied it exactly.
Considering it's like, so that's why you do the design patent, you do the utility patents, and you do all the things to try to protect it. But so far, like really poor copies, but copies.
Yeah.
Have there been any like exact like copycats of these?
No, there hasn't. And I don't know if that's because like people don't understand like how to actually, I mean, we spent a lot of time going to like laboratories and testing this specific, the reflectivity and how to get the light to bounce around the whole phone and things like that. And so no like exact copies, you know, lots of clamshells, lots of bulbs like this, but you know, they're either, you know, have the wrong shape inside or are using the wrong materials, you know, things like that. So none really 10 years later that are actually effective.
It's pretty amazing.
So not as easy to copy as you'd think.
Well, yeah. And so like when we advise people, it's like, you know, be as secretive as possible until you go to market. But once you go to market, anyone can buy your product. Any manufacturer can. You just don't want your product to get out there before, you know, a lot of times that happens on Kickstarter where people will reveal their whole product.
Yeah.
And, you know, a firm overseas will just be like, that's cool. And they'll make it. And they'll make it faster than that group can, you know?
Ours was just complicated enough and just niche enough that no one actually wanted to do it.
And no one really, I mean, this was in the beginning days of Kickstarter, like we already said. And so that wasn't really
and not too many people had smartphones.
No, we, you know, we'll talk about this later, but we really caught the wave, right? And it is about timing, a little bit of luck and a little bit of timing. And this was still early, you know, before people were overly using their touchscreens.
Yeah.
But so price coming down was a key to the business long term. But short term, price was an issue. And Wes mentioned patents and all the things, right? So you need to do a website. There was still a lot of things that needed to happen. So we still needed to raise money, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe some people do it just right and get just enough on Kickstarter to do it all. But we quickly found out that we didn't. So while still, you know, finishing manufacturing, we were also looking now for partners who wanted to join us, you know, and finding someone that would give us the funding to now build it, right? And not just build it, but turn it into a business, not just a, you know, fulfilling a Kickstarter project.
Yeah, and Kickstarter helped with that actually, because we didn't like, where do you go to get money? You know, there were some local VC firms that I think that we pitched, but once we launched our Kickstarter project, we had like firms and investment groups reaching out to us, which was helpful.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it validates the idea, right? And that's one of the biggest things is, you know, proof that there is a market for this.
Yeah.
So we found a partner, right?
Found a partner,
reached out to us, which was cool, as Wes mentioned in Kickstarter. And now we're off to the races, right? Now we can start putting money into actually building it, getting the website up.
Yeah, and that was the hard part because it's like, okay, we have the money to build it, but like you can't, you know, we need a website, we need to market. You know, at the time you were marketing for another large company, so you kind of knew about
we had some ideas,
how much we needed there.
Yes, and I remember and this is launch, but yeah, I remember there, like, oh, it's gonna be easy. It's gonna be easy. I do this all day, you know. And I was like, I'll put X amount in display ads and all this stuff. And it was in like 2012-ish. So our Kickstarter's 2012. We fulfilled this holiday of 2013. So there's the gap there, about a year almost, right? Yeah. Maybe a year and a half-ish. But anyways, that was right also in the beginning of, you know, digital marketing-ish, you know, well, when it was really taking off. And so it means to be easy. But what they fail to tell you is when you've got, you know, billion-dollar brands behind you, it's much easier to get a return online than when you're a no-name company. So
there you go.
Yeah, we messed up a lot here and there in the manufacturing and the marketing and the spend all over the place. But yeah, I thought that would be easy. I thought we'd be able to drive traffic, no problem. But it's all dollar bills. It's all dollar bills. I do remember in the middle of this process, this is our Easter egg, we get lots of customer service requests. We're working with customers and, oh, sorry, there's another delay or this, that, or the other. There was a hidden email on my Facebook in my other inbox from a SharkTank producer.
Oh, SharkTank.
And it was like 6 months after she sent me a message.
Oh, man.
So I wrote back and like, oh, no, it's too late. So,
Dang.
Yeah, I thought we were going to,
you missed your chance.
My dream of Shark Tank. It was crushed. So
the moral of the story is check your emails.
Check your emails. Check your other inbox.
Check your both of your
The
emails.
thing is,
especially when you're in a business.
That other inbox got a lot of angry people from Kickstarter, so you didn't always look at the other inbox. But moral of the story is we check your inbox and we did deliver. So we start moving towards manufacturing. The website starts to put together. You got nights and weekends because we're both doing other things too, right? And so it was so exciting, right? The travel, the branding, the design. What's the logo going to look like? You got to pay for a logo. Don't forget about that. So a lot of great things were happening, and it just felt alive. It stuck with us.
Yeah.
It's still there. And right here.
Got it right there. Got it up there.
Got it right there.
Got it right here.
So a lot of fun. I remember when the first units we got. Are we there yet? We have anything else to share about manufacturing? Are we done
with manufacturing? You have anything else you want to know about
some people are really interested in that, and some people might be really bored right now.
Well, I think the next thing I was really curious about is, I think we might have gone over this in the last episode, but how many people were backed you on Kickstarter?
I think it was I
guess we can do a quick number because I don't remember, right? Because I think you're right. I think it was about $40 a pop, and I think it was about before fees. Let's just say $75. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So there was about 2,000 ish.
Okay.
That sounds right. We actually built
so many at first.
We built 10,000.
Yeah, that sounds true. Wow, that's confidence.
Yeah, we built 10,000. That's also kind of what we needed to hit our price point too.
Yeah.
It was enough to get, especially for the quartz manufacturers that were basically doing this just for us, doing a new product for them, just for our product. So, yeah, we built 10,000. So that's a lot of.
It's amazing.
2,000 of them were already paid for. That's why we had to. That's why we had to raise money because it's we could build just 2,000, but then the business is over.
Yeah.
So there's the tooling, the molding, right?
Oh, the tooling. We were going to tell people what tooling was.
Yeah, what is it, Wes?
That was funny. So I feel like everyone knows this now, so maybe this is stupid, but
for the people that don't know, maybe I don't know.
If you make something out of metal, you could make a bunch of one-off stuff, But if you make something out of plastic, you need this huge,
expensive
piece of metal in the shape of.
You need
your
metal
product,
to make plastic.
And you pump this molten plastic into it.
It's this metal how they make mold. The rings of power.
It's a mold. Yeah, they call it tooling. It's a mold for the plastic.
Yeah,
and that's how plastic things are made. And there's lots of weird things about it that you wouldn't think about, especially in the manufacturing. But the main kicker was, it was $20,000.
Yeah.
It's an expensive
that sounds
thing.
Like a deal.
It's like what? How many thousands of dollars?
Yeah,
for
we're
this?
Excuse me?
Oh, that won't even produce all. That's not the cost of producing the product. That's
one of the entry fees.
One of the entry fees.
Yeah. One of the more expensive ones, but still, yeah.
Whew. Now you can amortize that. Technically a tooling can last for a couple 100,000 units.
Yeah.
And so after 100,000 units, it's not very expensive, but it was a big upfront cost,
pay for
especially
it upfront,
for 10 units. It turned out to be $5 a unit or something. That's
pretty
bad math. But.
So really, there's a whole session around raising the money for that, right? And there might be people interested in that. So if you are, let us know. We can go into that. But but you got to get the money to make a business.
Yep.
So it gets on the boat, right? You have something?
No, go.
It's coming on the boat. We got some samples. I remember we were together for the samples, and it doesn't really happen anymore. But early on, I think maybe just the quality of the iPhones was low or whatever it is. This UVC light could interact like a touch capacity on a phone. So if you put it in there locked, no big deal. But we know that, so we get it. We're stoked, and here's my wife gone, and we put it in there, and I had mine on or whatever, and we noticed that it's making phone calls, and it's we'd open it up and your home screen was wiggling. You know how you used to do that, and we're like. At least me, I was
it's a ghost touch.
It's over. Game over. No one's going to use this because they're going to put it in there and make FaceTime calls. Yeah. I don't know if FaceTime was a thing back then, but you're going to do butt dials from your phone. So bad news. Yeah. That was frightening.
I think I remember seeing customer service.
Yeah.
Emails and calls about that.
Yeah, it's quick, easy.
Taking pictures inside the phone soap.
Yes. And it doesn't do it anymore.
It's easy because, so I think at the time it was also I think it was the iPhone 4
Yeah, it was
or something.
Yeah,
and
2013.
And I think the iPhone 4 came out, and like if you held it like in a way that you would normally hold a phone, like it wouldn't make calls or something.
Oh yeah,
remember that?
I remember that. I emailed Steve Jobs about that.
Yeah,
I wrote him from my iPhone, and I was like,
you'd be blocking the signal if you held it wrong.
I remember writing an email like, I'm emailing you right now, and my data is working just fine. Such a big Apple fan.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, Steve.
Yeah, everyone knew his email.
Well, so like his response, everyone was like, "Are they going to recall all their iPhones?" And Steve was just like, "Just hold it differently," you know. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of, we took a page out of that book, and we're like, "Okay,
let's put in the instructions.
Just lock your phone before you put it in the phone soap." And
never a big issue. Now, like Dallin's been with us for a long time, has done customer service, so you've probably even seen it. So like it's not like it didn't happen, but another thing that just felt heavy. Because it was like, this is a bad user experience.
Yeah.
But lock your screen, put it in there, move on.
Turned out to be just fine.
It's not a big enough amount of people to make it.
And it was an easy solution.
Yeah.
Honestly. And as touchscreens got better, like there's not as many like false touches that you can do on a phone anymore. And so.
Didn't we test UVC on the Tesla screen still affected that?
Yeah, that's true.
That was a very powerful, undisclosed product. We can't talk about it anymore.
Yeah,
that's true.
That I get emails and messages about all the time.
Yeah,
people love it. So it's coming. Very exciting. I don't remember what you feel then, but I remember the moment I was walking from my apartment to what do they call it in San Francisco?
The BART.
The BART. Mm-hmm. And it had a song on, and it was motivating. It was by the Ava Brothers, and it was basically like, now's my moment to be a free bird. And then I just remember we had an order from Think Geek come in.
That's true.
And
Think Geek, shout out to them.
We were I still remember.
I think so.
Okay. Thanks, guys. That was awesome.
There's more geeks now than there were then.
So there's just a few things. Okay, we got a product. We got some orders coming in. We got the website going live. And this is it. This is the moment. I'm quitting corporate.
Nice.
Very exciting times. Very scary.
And I was like, that's a good idea, Dan. Inside, I was like, are you sure? But I didn't say that. So that was fun. And it wouldn't have worked. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for like kind of that leap of faith, right? That's a hard thing to do, to be like, after college, I was basically working on this, and but Dan, had a good start to his career already, and so that's a lot of and you give that advice to people, like, don't quit your day job until it's like ready to roll. But like,
if you got time for nights and weekends, and I mean, you were still working on some angles too, but more on this, and just right. I mean, I think that you don't have to bet the farm always. Sometimes you do, but a lot of times you can wait until you actually have something. Like, it was still a really big bet back then,
for sure.
But you like had some interest in a product.
At least yeah.
And so I think if you can make it work, there is a way to take calculated risk versus just full on risk.
Something else, something else I just remembered was our first office was in the basement of like an insurance firm.
That's
like
right.
In the basement, down some.
Yeah, I remember
stairs.
coming from a high rise in San Francisco to the basement in Orem, Utah.
Wow.
Filled with boxes to the roof.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about that is, so like when we ordered 10,000 units, I think it also was the amount that fit in a 20-foot or a 40-foot container,
probably 20 foot
right?
At that point, yeah.
And so we did the order, and these 10,000 phone soaps are coming, right? And we give them the address of our office, obviously.
Yeah. It's like, okay, sure.
And so we just didn't think about this.
Yeah.
The guy in the 18-wheeler in the big semi with the container, we can probably throw up some. I have some pictures of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
He pulls up into this like business park.
Yeah, it's not a warehouse.
There's no like lift gates. There's no forklifts to be seen, and he
can't even turn his truck around in there.
Yeah, he can't even turn his truck around. He called me and he said, "Is this the right address? Because I don't see any there's no warehouse here. There's no forklifts anywhere. It's like an insurance building." And I was like, "Yeah, that's us. We're in the basement." He's like, "Where am I supposed to deliver this?" And I'm just like, "Right here." And he opens. He was pissed, by the way. He opens up the back, and it's just all these pallets.
Yes.
And we could, and it's like we had no forklift.
No, one by one.
Wow.
So that was my afternoon. This guy hated me for it. He wouldn't help me. I thought he would like see me sweating, but he didn't help me. So I unloaded the entire container of phone soaps by hand and put them in front of the office. I think
no pallet jack.
No pallet jack. Mm-hmm. Just a bunch of
box
boxes.
Down would pay to see that, Wes.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't go back there anymore. It's PTSD.
Yeah, it's a wild world in the warehouse.
So then I think I recruited some friends and we put them all down into the basement. But that was our first shipment of. I had no idea you needed a forklift to get a pallet out of a truck.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
So, anyways, lots of learnings, lots of little things along the way. I'd say if I was going to sum up this episode, it would just be like, actually the same way maybe I did the last one, which is just do it. You just got to do it. You just got to.
Yeah. We should coin that phrase. Just do it.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Someone really should trademark that.
Yeah, that'd be really smart.
Yeah, nothing happens if you don't try, and it's scary, but it was a lot of fun, and so nothing like those first Kickstarter shipments going out, right? We kind of ended the last one's Kickstarter. You could do it again, but that was a special feeling. finally, after all that wait, after figuring out how to manufacture, figuring out how to raise money, figuring out how to sell it, giving our first customers, our loyal customers, who, by the way, they are still, maybe you're listening in, so thank you. Like, we still have early fans, and we wouldn't have been here without them, So it means a lot.
And they actually liked it. They're like, this turned out better than I thought.
Yeah. And that's why looking back, it's like that other product was nowhere near as good as this. But that was a moment, but we delivered, above and beyond, even though it took a while.
People were expecting one thing. They got something else, but it was better. So
that's right.
So that's good. We have a lot more to talk about.
Great.
And so keep your juices flowing in your head, because we want to hear everything there is to know.
We're just getting started.
And next time, it's going to be a fun one.
Okay, great.
So thank you guys. And thank you guys for listening and watching. See ya.